Aloha from Hawaii. Last time we spoke about warehousing from the perspective of me helping out with the Canadian National Railways in Moncton, New Brunswick. I'd like to pursue this a little bit further along the lines that some little anecdotes and perhaps some funny stories. I first got involved with Stanley Vidmar and their salesman out of Pennsylvania. His name was Ernie Gitlin, who was quite a character. So we bought our first Vidmar cabinet when I was the general parts manager in Quebec. And we ordered a cabinet that was rather interesting. It had 17 drawers in it. And what we proceeded to do was put every fast moving part that we owned that would fit into that cabinet. It was like a meat market. Every single order seemed to have something in that cabinet that needed to be picked. We had 15 men doing the order picking packing function in the warehouse in those days, and they were generating about 15 line items an hour. And when we put that cabinet in, it just brought us to a halt. It was rather interesting. Subsequent to that, I went on a trip to Europe to see warehouses and across the States, United States, to see warehouses where they used high density storage and modernized picking methods to improve productivity in the warehouse. I went to a warehouse at Stuttgart, Germany from Kodak. It was a distribution center. We walked into the warehouse. There were no lights on until we walked in. There was nobody working in there. It was a huge building. It distributed across all of the European nations and supplied all the piece parts, cameras, etc. for Kodak. It was huge. From there, I went to a tooling warehouse in Zurich. I think it was Hosch, and they had cranes, rack-mounted cranes running 100 feet tall. And the aisles were in the range of about the same thing. And one of the things I saw in there is one of those aisles was completely stopped. There was something wrong with the crane, it wouldn't work. Now, the dilemma with crane type of order picking systems is that you go down an aisle to a location, you extract a pallet, a box, some device, bring it back to the front, and somebody picks it and it sends it back. Well, if one of those lines is down, every single part that's in that line, now think about this, 100 feet tall by 100 feet long, that's a lot of parts. Anyways, that was unbelievably good learning experiences for me, and it's from that I determined we wanted to use floor mount lift trucks rather than cranes so that we could have multiple passes with one person on the lift truck. What really got my attention was a trip into Chicago, into a consumer goods distribution center. It was rather amazing. It was a completely different cut on things than I'd ever experienced or seen. The men that were working in the warehouse would come in the morning and they'd be given a list of parts and things they had to pick for the day. And the instruction was, when you were finished, you can go home. And I found that intriguing. We were dealing with something in the order of 15 picks per hour per person, 75 picks a day. And these folks were looking at 500 picks in a day. So I spent a couple of days watching this, and it was rather remarkable. So back I go into Montreal, into our warehouse, and we started trying things manually. It was very cumbersome, and ended up building a computer system that was probably as complex a piece of the computer system as anything else that there was. In the process of the European trips, I went into Geneva and met with Hans Wiedemeyer, who was the patriarch of the Vidmar family, who had cut an arrangement with Stanley in the United States to distribute their cabinets. But it was a very interesting circumstance where I learned that the magic with cabinets was not to put all the little parts in there. Rather, it was to bring moderate sized parts down to eye level that could be better supervised. The cabinets are 5 feet tall, and as a result of that, you can see on top of them. Now you can stack them, you can go 3 high with them, they're a very solid element. But we ended up using cabinets and stored in there parts whose size was 6 inches by 6 inches by 15 inches. The drawer was 30 inches deep. There was a heck of a lot involved in designing warehouses, both for storage effectiveness and, more importantly, for labor. Labor is your biggest cost component in a warehouse. So how you lay out the warehouse, the designs you use, the locations that you select is going to go a long way to controlling your labor. When we were done, we were up over 100 items per person per day. We went from 15 order pickers to 5. Now, we kept everybody on board. There were other things that we had them do in other areas, but it was very revealing. You can find out a heck of a lot more on this if you go into our classes and have a look at warehousing. Those of you that are responsible for managing a warehouse can take that class and learn a heck of a lot. It will save you a lot of money and give you better customer service. The time is now.